Okay, so we're going to answer this paper here. This is going to be the WJC June 2022. This is the calculator paper. Right, so the first question is 3.5% of 159.8. So using a calculator, I think the easiest way to do this really would just be 3.5, then shift percent times 159.8, and there's your answer there, 5.593. Then on the second one, all you need to do now is enter everything into your calculator and just get the answer that you require. So that's going to be square root of 262.44 minus 3/7 times 24.5. And there we go, 5.7 is your answer there. Then moving on to question 2. Find the coordinates of C. So B is the midpoint of the line A to C. Well, what I would do here is I would just do this purely by inspection. So we're going across 2, down 2. So we know that this is the center here. So there must be another point around here to make it a straight line. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So there's your answer there, which is going to be 1, 0. Then moving on to part B. So A and B are two vertices of a right angle triangle. So what I'm going to do is if I just get rid of this now. Point D is to be plotted on the grid above so that the triangle ABD is a right angle triangle. The x-coordinates of D is negative. Given the coordinates of a possible position of the D can be plotted on the grid above. So you basically will have to plot somewhere a coordinate where in this region here the x-coordinate has to be plotted in order to make this a right angle triangle. Now if I just draw that there like that, well of course to give me a right angle triangle, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to come through the diagonal here like so to there. Yeah, it clearly states that the x-coordinate of D is negative. Okay, so that means to say, if we join this up, there's your right angle there. We know that in order for it to be negative, it's either got to be -1, 6, or -2, 7. So it has to be one of those two coordinates there, okay? So the two possible answers you can give are -1, 6, or you can give -2, 7. So question 3, by expressing all the amounts in litres, calculate the mean value of these three amounts. Okay, so this one here is obviously 1.25 because it's in litres already. This one here is going to be 1.615. Now, your conversion is going to be 1 litre is equal to 1.75 pints. So what we need to do is you need to multiply this here by 1.75, okay? Oh, I should say, sorry, you need to divide by 1.75 because it's already in pounds. I apologize, sorry. So to get this conversion here, it's going to be 2.73 divided by 1.75. So going on the calculator, 2.73 divided by 1.75. Oops. There you go. That's 1.56. Okay, so we can go ahead now and work these out. So it's going to be 1.25 plus 1.56 plus 1.615 all divided by 3. So that's going to be 4.425 divided by 3, and by putting that onto your calculator, so we got 4.425 divided by 3, which is 1.475 litres. Okay, so the important bit in this question was just making sure that you understood the conversion, that 1 litre is approximately equal to 1.75 pints. Oh, I didn't see that at the bottom there, I apologise, sorry. But let's just put them in quickly anyway. So we know that 2.73 pints was approximately 1.56. And of course that one there is 1.615. Sorry, I should have made it clear as well that 1 litre is equal to 1,000 millilitres. Hence the reason that is 1.615, so just divided by 1,000. Anyway, the answer to this question, as we've just seen, is 1.475. Okay, moving on. Question 4. So the spin is a spin. The two numbers obtained are multiplied to get a score. So some of the scores are already shown. You've just got to fill the rest in. Well, this is pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 6 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. 2 times 5 is 10. That now is going to be 30. And that one now is going to be 40. So we've completed the table to show the scores. Explain why all the scores are even. Okay, the reason the scores are all even is because these are all odd numbers. These are all even numbers. And then in any situation, an odd times an even will always equal to an even number. What is the probability that a person gets a score of 10 or more when playing the game once? Okay, so how many 10 or mores are there? So if I just use my highlighter here, we've got 1 there, 2, sorry. Do that again, I apologize. It's 10 or more. Where are we? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 altogether out of a possible 12. So the answer is 7 over 12. And then in this part of the question, you will be assessed on your communication and quality of writing. So the players are charged £2.50 to play the game once. Each player who gets a score of 10 or more wins £3.50. So we know the probability of 10 or more is that there. How much profit would you expect to make when 228 people play the game once? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is 228 times £2.50. I'm putting that on your calculator. Will give you an answer of £570. So now what we need to do is we need to work out, well, okay, we've taken that much money, so how much are we going to pay out? So we need to work out now, we know the probability of winning is 7 over 12. So 7 over 12 multiplied by the total amount of people playing, 228. And again, putting that on your calculator will give you 133 people. So there'll be 133 winners. So how much do you pay out? So it's 133 times £3.50, because it clearly states here that you win £3.50. So putting that on your calculator would give you £465 and 50 pence. So all you need to do now is, well, what's your expected profit going to be? So the profit is the money you've taken, 570, minus the money you've forked out, which is £465, 50p. So this here is what you've taken. This here is what you're paying out. And then subtracting those away from each other will give you a final answer of £104 and 50 pence. And there you go. Right then, so question 5. So the length of a rectangle is double its width. So we know that the length is 2 times its width. The area of the rectangle is greater than 60 centimeters. Well, we know what the area is, don't we? So the area is going to be its width times the length. And we know that that's going to be greater than 60 centimeters squared. The perimeter of the rectangle is less than 40 centimeters. So we know that the perimeter is going to be less than 40. So the question now is this then. Give a possible width and length of the rectangle. So if you imagine now you've got this rectangle. I'm just going to make this up now, okay? So for example, it's got to be greater than 60. Let's put down, we'll say that's W for the width, and there's going to be the length, okay? We know that the length, sorry, we'll do it this way, length and width. So we know the length is 2 times the width. So for example, if I put, let's say 5 there and 10 there. So 5 times 10 is going to be 50, but that's not going to work because it says the area has got to be greater than 60. So you could just do, I think the easiest method really is just do some trial and improvements here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up one, so I'll go 6 and 12, because the length has got to be twice the width. Now 6 times 12 is 72. So we know that that area is going to work. But the perimeter must be less than 40. So does this add up to less than 40? So we've got 12 and 12 and 6 and 6. So that adds up to 36. So we know now that this is going to work. So the width is going to be 6. The length is going to be 12. The area is going to be 72. And the width, the perimeter is going to be 36. Well, there we go. I think that there is the only answer, because if we went to 7 and 14, it's 28, 28, 9, 30, 35. Yeah, if you did 7 and 14, the area will work, but the perimeter will be too much then. So the answer is going to be 6 and 12. So the next one, question 6, is going to be your standard questions on reflection. X is equal to 1. So you go to that axis and you draw that line through the axis. So X is equal to 1, which goes there. Sorry, I know that's a bit untidy. And then, of course, you just reflect it. That's 3 away. That's 3 away. There, 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 and there. And then you just join that up. And there you go. Then on the next one, rotate the shape below through 90 degrees clockwise about the point -1, 1. So -1, 1 is there. So this one here is going to be there. Obviously, you would use tracing paper for this if you can't spot it straight away anyway. And there you go, on there like that, okay? So 90 degrees clockwise, yeah, so it's been rotated 90 degrees in that direction there. And then, of course, your standard questions now on your algebra. So 4 times 3 is 12p, and then 4 times -5 is -20. Making m the subject of the formula, so we want m to be on its own. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the -3 by adding 3 to both sides. So w plus 3 equals 8m. And then finally, to get m on its own, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. So the final answer is m is equal to w plus 3 over 8. Then expand and simplify. Y times y is y squared. Y times -4 is -4y. 5 times y is plus 5y. And 5 times -4 is -20. So y squared -4 plus 5 is plus y minus 20. And there's your answer there. Okay. So moving on to the next one, question 8. So these are corresponding angles. That there, they are corresponding, or F angles. The one that does the zigzag shape, let's say it was that one instead of the A there. So now, if you think about it like this, you've got this Z shape there. So that would have been an alternating angle. And then, of course, this one here and this one here, these two together inside the lines would make co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So moving on to question 9. A car travels 129.5 in 3.5 minutes. 3 hours and 30 minutes. Calculate the average speed of the car. Distance speed, and time. So the distance is 129.5 divided by the time taken, which is 3.5. So if we go on the calculator now, and then I do 129.5 over 3.5, and there we go, 37 miles an hour. Question 10. Yeah, okay, so you have these questions on these ratios and shapes, and it's not very warmly received by students. But I think what helps you sometimes is just by making sketches as well. Probably will help you to see what's going on. So we have a cylinder which has a height of 24.8. And the ratio of the diameter of the cylinder to the height of the cylinder is 3:2. So what they're saying is the ratio of the diameter to the height is in the ratio of 3:2. So we know that the height has a ratio of 2. So if you go 24.8 divided by 2, then you multiply by 3. The reason we do this is by dividing by 2, because we know there's 2 parts, you work out what one part is. Then we can multiply by 3 to work out what the diameter of the cylinder is going to be. So 24.8, that's going to be 12.4 times 3, which is going to be 37.2. So we now know that the diameter of the of this here is 37.2 centimeters. And we also know that that's the height there. So they wanted to work out the volume of the cylinder. So the volume of the cylinder uses the formula pi r squared times h. So you're working out the area of the circle, multiplying it by the height of the cylinder. So it's pi times. Now the radius is half of 37.2, which is 18.6. So 18.6 squared times by 24.8. And then if you put all that in your calculator, you will get an answer of 27,000 centimeter cubed. If you did it to two significant figures, well, I'll put it on the calculator to show you anyway. So it's pi times 18.6 squared times 24.8 equals, there we go. So to two significant figures, 26,954 would become 27,000. Just as a quick recap for you, two significant figures means you want the first two numbers. So 1, 2, because that's a 5, this will round up to a 7. So it becomes 27. Now the mistake some students do is they leave it as 27. Well, obviously that's not going to work because the answer's in thousands. You can't leave your answer as tens. So what we then do is we just put in 3 zeros. Hence the answer 27,000. And then we have this quite long question on a bit of Pythagoras. So basically what they want us to do is they want us to work out the area of the triangle BCD. So calculate the length of CD. That's what they want us to find. Well, let's start from the beginning then. So they've given us the area of this triangle here. I'm just going to shade this one in. Now, we know that the area is 60 centimeters squared, and we know that the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. But we know that the answer to this is going to be 60. So what I'm going to try and do now is work out what that length is there, because once I find that length, I can then use that answer to rearrange this formula in order to work out what CD is going to be. In other words, the base of the triangle. Or depending which way you look at it, okay? Well, you can clearly see on this triangle here, this here is of course right angled, and it's just going to be Pythagoras. So what I'll do is I'll sketch each one as I go along. So here's my first one. So we got 12.8 and we have got 9.6. So 12.8 squared plus 9.6 squared. This is the Pythagoras theorem applied. In other words, to work out C to B. And if I put that on my calculator, I get an answer of 16 centimeters. Now what I'm going to do, the triangle in red there, I'm going to redraw that one. We now know that this length is 16. We know that the area is 60 centimeters squared. We've got to work out this here. So let's call it the base. Okay, it really doesn't matter which was the base or which was the height, because you multiply them together anyway. So what I'm going to do now then is I'm simply going to go, well, base times height, so 16 times x, base times height, divided by 2 is equal to 60. So rearrange this now, 2 times 60, so 16x is equal to 120. So x is equal to 120 divided by 16, and you will get an answer of 7.5 centimeters. And there's the answer to the question, okay, which is going to be 7.5 centimeters. But this is going to be pretty easy to do anyway, to check, because all you've got to do now is if you take the answer of 7.5 and plug it back into here, so 7.5 times 16 divided by 2, the answer will be 60. Question 12, we have to factorize. Okay, so it doesn't actually say well, I've got to be careful how I say this really. It doesn't say fully factorize, but we will fully factorize it anyway. Because what some students do is they just pull out a 2. Oh, actually, I've just realized I'm being really dumb. There's only one way you can do it anyway. Okay, so look at the numbers first. What's the highest common factor of 8 and 6? And the answer is 2. Then ask yourself this question. Well, what letters come to both sides? We've got an x and an x. So we take the smallest value, which is just a single x. There's no y to both sides, so that goes outside the brackets. Now I ask myself this question. What do I multiply by 2x in order to get 8x squared? Well, 2 times 4 is 8, and an x times an x is x squared. So that would be 4x in there. What do I multiply by 2x to get 6xy? Well, I multiply 3 by 2 to get 6. And then, of course, I just add on the y. And there we go. Now I'm going to show you a bit of a cheat on the next one here. The conventional way is to multiply two numbers that you get to get 40 and add to give you 13. So the two numbers are going to be 5 and 8, x plus 8, x plus 5. Now you can write it that way, or you can write it this way, because you'd be amazed how many students don't realize that the way you write that is irrelevant. Okay. Now then, um, it's asking you on the next part, how do you know that the answer is correct? Well, if you were to expand these, then you should get that as an answer. And just a quick reminder, to expand something just means this. I mean, you don't have to do this bit, as long as you say something like, you could just expand to check. So x times x is x squared, x times 5 is 5x, 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times 5 is 40. Simplify the middle, x squared plus 8 and 5 is 13x, and then plus 40. So we know that works. But you don't have to show that. You can then just say, if you expand the bracket, it should give you this, the x squared plus 13x plus 40. Also, you could say, if I was to substitute back the values that you found here into that factorizing there, the original equation, you should get 0 as an answer. But keep it simple, just mention the fact you're factorizing, okay? Right, cheat on this quickly. Right, what you can do actually is you could just go, well, I pretend I did all the work myself, but the calculator will do it all for you. So if you go to this function on your calculator, go to polynomial, degree 2. If you now type that in, x squared, which is a 1, then 13, then 40, now push equals. The answer on your calculator will always be the opposite, minus 5. So you will put x plus 5 in your calculator, and x plus 5 in your bracket, and x plus 8 in your other bracket. Put times and a plus on top of them, and then the calculator will do the rest for you, okay? Obviously, this only applies if you've got that classicist model, which are getting very expensive on eBay now. So I think you've missed the boat on that one, guys. They were on sale for like 20 odd quid in Tesco's and everywhere, but they've stopped making them now. I mean, the market is flooded with copies of them anyway. But anyway, moving on. Calculate the value of x, trigonometry. So opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Now don't forget your trigonometry functions, SOHCAHTOA, sine, cosine, and tangent. This is the way I like to do it, okay? Just so I can make this clear to you. I'm looking for this length here, which is an O. They're giving me H. Well, O and H belongs to this ratio. So I'm looking for the O. So if I was to cover the O, it's a times question. So it's going to be sine 42 times H, which is, that's a H there, 14.5. And then put that on your calculator, and you should get 9.7 as an answer. I've rounded it up, obviously, okay? And then moving on to the next one, let's label again, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. This time, you're looking for the angle. They've given me H, and they've given me A. A and H belongs to cosine. So if I do the cos ratio now, cos A times H. So it's A divided by H. So it's cos minus 1 bracket 13.5 divided by 15.8. Put that on your calculator and you should get 31.788, something like that. Actually, I will do that for you on here. Menu, back to 1. So we're going to go shift cos 13.5 divided by 15.8, and that's the answer, 31.3. .3 degrees. Okay, so 14 quickly. The cuboid has that a length of 5, a width of x, and a height of x squared plus 3. Yeah, okay. So these show that questions. Basically, what you have to do is, I tell you what, let's just imagine this. Let's just say it was a question at the beginning of the paper and it was just a 2, a 3, and a 6. Well, to find the volume of any cuboid, you would multiply everything together. Well, the same thing happens here. You just multiply them together. And what they want you to do is to show that when you multiply them together, that you will get that as an answer. Okay? So all you've got to do is 5 times x times x squared plus 3 is equal to 132. And then just tidy it all up now, okay? So 5 times x is 5x times x squared is 5x cubed. 5x times 3 is 15x. And then we know that the volume comes to 132. So there we go. That's exactly what they wanted, okay? Now, the solution lies between 2 and 3. I could tell you now, I absolutely... WJC, get rid of this question, please. It's just so time consuming and, well, there we go. That's my opinion. Okay, just whatever. Anyway, basically, you've got to try and find the answer between 2 and 3 by substituting values into there and there. So let me make one thing clear to you all. You will not get 132 as an answer. What the exam board are doing is they're testing your ability to be able to logically try different numbers, knowing that you could go too high or too low. So you're working in between those limits, okay? Well, I've already answered most of these anyway, so I'm just going to save you a bit of time by doing this. 2.1. If I put 2.1 into, let's say my value of x is 2.1, and then I'm going to put it into the 5x cubed plus 15x. So if I put 2.1 now into there and there using my calculator, by the way, it's interesting. When I teach the kids in my school, when you use the calculator, I do it like this. So 5 brackets, put the number in, 2.1, cube it, plus 15 lots of brackets, 2.1. And the reason we could do that is then it's just much easier than just to use the cursor key to go back and just delete numbers. And it's just quicker as well, okay, in my opinion. I'll do a couple for you in a minute anyway to show you. But if you put that in, the answer is going to be 77.85. Well, that is obviously too low. So we need to get closer and closer and closer, okay? Now, if I put 2.6 in, now watch what happens now. So 2.6. So I'm going to do this method now, okay? So 5 brackets 2.6 cubed plus 15 lots of 2.6 equals. So my answer is 126.88. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the cursor like that and change that to a 7. Delete, change that to a 7. 138.915. Okay, so let me explain to you what I've just gone and done. 138.915. 138.915. Right. 2.6 was too low, but 2.7 was too high. Now they'll give you 1 mark for showing the lows, 1 mark for showing the high. We now know there's no point going to 2.8 to 2.9 because the answer is too high. And there's no point going to 2.5 or 2.4 or 2.3, the answer is too low. We've got to go in between. So now what I do is this. I'm now going to try 2.55. Now if you put that on a calculator, you're going to get 121.1568. Too low. I'm then going to do 2.65. 2.65 will give me 132.798. And then finally 2.75 gives me 145.234. Now I know there was no point in doing the 2.75 because the answer was 132 we're looking for. I knew 2.55 was obviously. Do you know what? I've just realised something. I don't know why I put that down, by the way, 2.55. Why I use that number? Because obviously the answer's got to be between 2.6 and 2.7. But anyway, so what I did was I did 2.65, which is 132.798. Then I did 2.75, which is 145.234. And what you will notice is that the answer has got to be between. Yeah, of course, I've just realized something. The reason I did a 2.55, by the way, was because I knew that 2.55 rounded up would become 2.6, which we know is going to be too low. So we know that the answer has got to be between 2.55 and 2.65. Because we know that 2.65 is too big. So effectively, the answer has got to be in the range between 2.6, 2.61, 2.62, 2.63 and 2.64. Therefore, the final answer, x rounded up, would be 2.6. So it's a 4-mark question. So they give you the marks for showing this too high, too low business, but then you've got to show that calculation to get the extra mark, okay? And then of course you've got to round up your answer and explain the logic behind it. If they want the answer to 1 decimal place, then you've got to show at least 2 numbers to the 2 decimal places. If they wanted it to 2 decimal places, then you've got to show at least 3 decimal places in the answer. Hence, it says, find the height of the cuboid. Okay, so the height of the cuboid, therefore, is going to be, there we go. That's the height of the cuboid. So it's going to be x squared plus 3. So we know that x is going to be equal to 2.6. So it's 2.6 squared plus 3. And the answer, just go on there, 2.6 squared plus 3. I get 9.76. And there we go. That is the end of this paper, and I hope you find that useful. Okay, thank you.